Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. In today's video, we are going to discuss about the overall TEF Canada exam. We are going to discuss its detailed structure on what's the most up-to-date structure of TEF Canada exam when we talk about all the different modules, what are going to be the modules and how each module will be conducted. So make sure to watch this video up until the end so that you are able to get in-depth explanation of what we are going to discuss today. So first of all, if you guys see over here, we have, obviously, TEF Canada exam. So specifically today for this video, for the sake of this video, I'm going to talk only about TEF Canada exam. Why? Because in the first place, I recommend giving TEF Canada exam, TCF Canada exam. Not really, because listening is a bit trickier, reading as well a bit trickier according to the recent anecdotes of my students as well, and also all the research that I have done with our exam specific preparation team. We have come to this conclusion that TEF Canada is overall better than TCF Canada. Now, without diving too much into the intricate details about it, let's understand about the structure of TEF Canada exam. Alright, so let's go to the screen. So firstly, when we talk about TEF Canada exam, there are going to be 4 modules. Okay, first one is going to be Compréhension écrite, which is reading. Compréhension orale is going to be your listening. Then we have Expression écrite, which is writing, Expression orale, which is speaking. Now I have written it down in a proper structure, in a proper order, how it happens in TEF Canada exam itself. Okay, so what happens is, let's say you have an exam at 10 o'clock. What will happen is, during the first 3 hours, your first 3 sessions or sections will be conducted, and then let's say you end your first 3 sections at around 1 o'clock, then after half an hour or so, then your speaking exam will be conducted. So everything happens just in one day. We don't have to, wait for a separate day. We don't have to, go to this particular location on a separate day to give speaking exam. Everything happens in one roof, just in one day, in just one overall shift. Okay, so first let's talk about reading. Okay, so if we overall discuss about the reading, what happens is that there are 40 questions. 40 questions are all MCQ based questions. So you get 4 options. Okay, I'm going to write over here in detail. You get 4 options. Basically, you get stuff to read. Okay, and then you get 4 options to respond to that particular thing. Okay, so this is what happens, and it's all MCQ based. You are given 60 minutes to complete the whole reading exam. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You have an ability to go back and forth between the questions. You have an ability to go back and forth between the screens. So nothing too crazy about this. What I recommend is, if you are someone who is prepping for a reading component specifically, build your speed a lot and also build your wide variety of vocabulary, because that's something that's going to help you to crack the reading component of TEF Canada exam, and also make sure to be familiar with a lot of different synonyms of vocabulary when it comes to the verbs and different overall synonyms of all the words that you are able to understand in French. So that is something which is very important to consider. And all these things that I'm talking about, this is the most up-to-date, okay? This is like the 2024, the most up-to-date exam pattern. We are not going to talk about older exam pattern anymore. This is up-to-date, and this is the precise structure on how TEF Canada exam is conducted. And let's go on to the next one, okay? Once we are done with the 60-minute of reading component, then right after that, we jump on to the listening component. Happened same with me, happened with my students as well. First reading is conducted, and then we go on to listening. Now what happens in listening is the same. You get 40 questions, and those are also all MCQs, but we have 40 minutes for it, okay? Because now we can't really control anything. We can't go back and forth, because once the listening exam starts, it just goes, okay? And we have to really be focused to be able to listen to each and every audio with the proper focus, so that we are able to answer the questions. We don't even have a liberty to see a question for good enough amount of time. For example, if any question is only shown for 30 seconds, it's only gonna get showed for 30 seconds, and then after it the screen will change. So we really have to consider the pace and the fluidity and the speed of the exam, because of which what I recommend you is be focused when you're doing the listening exam specifically, because when we are doing listening, our mind wanders. Happened with me as well during my first attempt. It happens with other students as well. I'll be completely honest, okay? So when you are listening, you should have tunnel vision, a tunnel focus when it comes to attempting the listening exam. Very, very important. Now, covering one more point for listening is that you can only listen to the audios once. There is no option to listen the audios twice. It's only one time. Whatever you heard, and you just have to respond to the question. You just have to select a particular MCQ, and that becomes very challenging. Why? Because in some audios, you only get 15 seconds to read the question before, okay, and then the audio is played. Your focus is only on listening the audio, and then after the audio is done, you only get 15 seconds to select your response, and then the screen just changes. So that is why, personally, not only personally, anecdotally, according to the research and according to the results, listening is the trickiest component to score in. And then writing exam, once you are done with reading and listening, then we will come on to writing. Now writing is a bit different. Obviously it happens on computer, so writing is not written. Okay, please understand, there is no written component. Even though we have to write, but we have to write on a computer. That means you will be given a keyboard. Okay, now depending on the center and depending on what location, for example, if you're in Quebec or if you're in Ontario or any other province, they may or may not give you French keyboard, and most of the times I'm pretty sure they do not really give you French keyboards, because of which we have to figure out we have to learn and memorize some patterns on how to use specific accents on different keyboards. And the thing is, for me, I still remember when I went to give my first attempt, I thought that they would have a French keyboard, okay, and I went with that preparation, and then when I gave the exam during my first attempt, I came to understand that there was an on-screen keyboard, okay, which was okay, which is not a bad thing. But the only thing about on-screen keyboard is that it decreases our speed to write, okay. On a normal keyboard, if I show you over here on a normal keyboard, if you have some keyboard at your home, there are some certain keys which you can use for particular accents. For example, if you press, now I remember that if you press this particular thing, it's an E aigu, okay. If I press this particular thing, it's E grave. If I press this, it's C cedille, okay. Or on my computer, like on my PC, over here you will be able to see that there are particular accents, okay. There are particular accents which we can use during our practice, but this is not something that happens in the exam. In the exam, we are only given on-screen keyboard, okay. Apart from it, there are some patterns which can be used on any generic keyboard, but those patterns I can give you a screenshot over here. You have to pause the video and make sure to learn those patterns so that you are able to use that pattern in any other generic keyboard, okay. So that is a very important thing to understand. Without diving in detail about the characters, you will be given an on-screen keyboard, and that makes your writing speed a little bit less. So that's something to consider. So in writing, what will happen is there are going to be two sections, section A and section B. Section A, what happens in section A is that we get 25 minutes, okay, to do section A, and section A is about a reporting, okay, in which we are given with a particular headline. I'll put the example of the headline over here in the screenshot. You will be able to see that we are given a particular headline. Then we are supposed to continue that headline and create like a journal report, okay. The headline is usually fait divers, which can be any headline regarding any topic, okay, and we have to just continue the story. So for that we are given 25 minutes. Usually we are supposed to write at least 80 words for it, but what I recommend is writing about 100 words so that we are able to express our story in a proper way. And definitely please make sure to use proper past tenses, conditional tenses, and all the other variety of connectors that you can during your story expression, okay. Section B is a bit more technical now, okay. In section B, what happens is, firstly we are given 35 minutes only, which is not a lot, but my students have been able to train according to that time limit, because we follow a particular structure, we follow a particular pattern. Same thing for section A, we follow a particular pattern. That is why it becomes easy for them. But for any any general person who has just overall learned French, attempting section B is a very tough task, because we need to have not only we have to have a proper flow of the language on how to express our point of views, we also have to have a ability to connect between different sentences and how to use subjunctive properly, how to use all the different variations of the language when it comes to grammar properly, and all of that has to happen within 35 minutes, okay. What happens in it is that we are given with a particular argument. For example, il faut que nous soyons végétaliens pour la bonne santé physique. Okay, something like that. It is necessary to be vegan for a good, for a longer life. Okay, that heading will be given. We have to write back to the person who used that heading in his or her article, and we have to present our arguments to them. Okay, usually we present 3 arguments: 1 agree, 2 disagree, 2 agree, and 1 disagree. I mean, that can change accordingly on depending on how you feel. The word limit we get is at least 200 words, so that that's something which is more technical and which is lengthy as well. And 35 minutes is a little bit less, but if you have a proper training, you will be able to do that as well. Let's move on to speaking. Now, speaking is a little bit fun. Now, if you haven't seen the previous video where I properly explained on how to do section A speaking for TEF Canada, you'll be able to watch that as well. Please make sure to watch my video. But apart from that, in speaking, we have 2 sections, section A and section B. Section A happens for 5 minutes, section B happens for 10 minutes. Now, what happens in section A is that we are given with any particular poster or an advertisement. Okay, so it's either a poster, an advertisement, or any generic ad on the internet, and we have to read that ad, and we are only given 1 minute to read that particular thing. And in section A, we are supposed to ask questions to the examiner as if we are calling that person to inquire more information about something. Okay, so I'm going to put the example, a screenshot on how any ad might look like, which is over here, and you will be able to, and you only get 1 minute to read it, and then you have to play a role of a person asking question. The examiner will play a role of someone who will respond to your questions, and their answers will be very short and precise. So you really have to make sure that you are taking good enough time to ask questions. You are supposed to ask at least 10 questions. Usually what I recommend is asking 12 questions to be on the safe side. And once 5 minutes are done, examiner shows you the time, how much is done, and then you can go towards ending the conversation. And what happens in section B is, now section B is also a bit more tricky. Why? Because it happens firstly for 10 minutes, and also it's a dialogue conversation. Even though section A was dialogue, but it's more like, it's kind of like you can have some questions in your brain. It's not like examiner is leading the conversation, it's you who lead the conversation in section A, but in section B, it's you who is leading the conversations, which makes it a little bit tricky. So what happens in section B? The concept is same. You're given an advertisement or a poster. You are supposed to read it for 1 minute. So in section B as well, you only get 1 minute, and then your examiner plays the role of your friend to whom you are supposed to convince to take that particular service. Okay, for example, there will be a job offer that apply to this XYZ job. These are the profile details. This is the requirements. Okay, and then you are supposed to read and influence your friend, which is examiner, to take that particular, to apply to that particular job. Okay, and the examiner will be hostile. He or she will be like, no, I don't think so. This is something for me. This is not my field of interest, and XYZ and stuff like that. He or she will come with those arguments, and we are supposed to defend our point of views, or we are supposed to explain them those arguments, like why your arguments are wrong and why this is a good thing for you. Okay, so that happens for 10 minutes. It's more sort of like a dialogue conversation. The least thing that examiner expects is that you hold a conversation for 10 minutes. Okay, so this is where you really have to be innovative. You really have to be creative about defending, about expressing your point of views and leading and also elongating the conversation. So this is something which is very, very important. Now this section B becomes a little bit tricky, not a little bit, it becomes a lot more tricky if you're not fluent in the language. But what happens is, with my proper training and coaching methods, we provide a specific structure on what specific structure to follow, that doesn't matter whatever the arguments are, you always have an answer. So there are a lot of different variety of things that we do, which makes us properly trained for section B specifically for TEF Canada, but obviously section A for speaking as well. So these are actually the aspects which I enjoy a lot. Personally for me, writing and speaking are the aspects which I enjoy a lot, because even if you see some of my students' results, they are actually pretty good in writing and speaking. They actually tend to do really well. Okay, but being honest with you, the aspect where a lot of students faces a difficulty is listening. Why? Because listening is very tricky. But with proper training, with intensive training, what we do with intensive training, definitely you will be able to do it. So all the best for your TEF Canada exam, and I hope you learned something out of it, and make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you are able to get notifications for in-depth video on each and every aspect, on how each and every aspect goes. So I am literally going to explain the proper reading structure, the proper listening structure, writing and speaking structure as well. So for those updates, make sure to subscribe and share it with your friends. If you want to learn French for TEF TCF Canada, you can go down to the link and you'll be able to register for a free orientation. Make sure to study hard. I'll see you in the next one.